let me show you the books first, and I will attempt to go through these quickly. And these are not all of the books, but at least you'll get an idea of the books that I have been using or that we will use. Okay. Some of these books are for Waldorf teacher training, and some of them are ones that I'm using as part of our reading. They're Waldorf teacher training adjacent. This book is called The Child's Changing Consciousness as the Basis of Pedagogical Practice. This was not, to the best of my knowledge, not one of the books that was recommended as reading or included in our reading, but it caught my eye because I have been doing a book club for Phases of Childhood. I've read through this book 1.5 times, almost 2 times in preparation for the book club, and I also use this one extensively in our Waldorf teacher training for writing the paper on child development between 0 and 21. This is an amazing resource. Every chapter is so full of information, and it takes you through the stages of child development, and then later it explains the layers of the soul and how everything is connected and what we're trying to achieve in raising children into adulthood. So this does talk about these different awakenings of consciousness, and I thought, so this is based on Waldorf pedagogical practices, but this might be the actual source. So I haven't read this. I literally just got this, I think, yesterday. So excited to read that. Between Form and Freedom, this is another book that we read that was advised to read for Waldorf teacher training for that child development paper, but I'm also hosting a book club for this book. And so I will be reading through it again, not the entire thing. I think we're just doing part 1. This book also such an amazing resource. Because I didn't know a lot about the adolescent years and the Waldorf pedagogical practices for those years, I found our sessions in that topic area and this book amazingly insightful. Really, really loved it so much. Okay, I've got some more Waldorf books, and really this is only like a small selection. I'm so embarrassed. I bought so many books, and truly I've read through quite a few of them. I spent a lot of this year doing a lot of reading for teacher training, also because I find the subject area incredibly fascinating. I bought 2 books on metalwork and another book on the arts because last year, so this private Islamic school or Muslim school in which I'm going to be there for a couple of days a week, not as a full-time faculty member, but we're going to be doing handwork or the practical arts. So I have been in training and I am learning a lot, but there's still so much to learn and practice and understand, especially from a pedagogical perspective. So I got some books, especially this was after being in I think module 6 for the Waldorf practical arts training when we did coppersmithing, which I absolutely fell in love with coppersmithing. So I think these are 2 books that were either there or recommended or just as a resource. The Art of Coppersmithing. I fear that this is going to be a much harder book for me to get through if I am not working with the copper or with an experienced coppersmither. I don't know if that's what you call them. But I still, to the best of my ability, I'm going to read through this because I anticipate that if I have the materials to do this, my 10-year-old nephew in a couple of years will love this so much. And if I get a little bit more proficient at it, I would love to bring it to the students at the school. The Secrets of Metals. I could be mistaken, but I feel like this one might be a recommended Waldorf resource. I'm not sure. I actually cannot remember accurately. This one seems maybe a little bit more general for anyone interested. This one, I feel like it had a little bit more, let's say, content surrounding the art of metalwork and cultures and the history. I think that's what this one has, but I actually cannot remember. Educating through arts and crafts. I bought this one without being able to see the inside, so let's look through it together. Again, being someone who loves the practical arts and making and learning new skills, I'm hoping that this will be inspiring for me. However, I do find it really challenging to learn these skills from a book, but hopefully this will give me the inspiration to seek further knowledge and maybe classes so that I can start to learn some of these things. Some of these things I am familiar with, but I did see in here there was a section on making shoes. Did I miss that? Which I think is so neat. There we go. Wouldn't that be so cool to learn how to make your own shoes? So neat. Anyway, let me show you a couple more of the Waldorf inspired books. Teaching history was suggested by one of the teachers at the local Waldorf school when we were taking some classes with him. And what this gave me, which I don't think I ever really appreciated or knew before, this goes from 5th grade, I believe it starts at 5th grade and goes through high school. One thing is that, and I think I only read through the chapter on grade 8 and maybe grade 9. What I really loved about this book, just on the limited chapters that I read, was that it gave such context for the content that is taught in those grade levels, which for a teacher would be amazing to understand and know, especially if you want to do a Waldorf approach. There's a lot of information for the elementary years, but I find it a little bit more challenging to find information for the high school years, especially if you want to the best of your ability, do a more of a Waldorf pedagogical approach in high school. It's more about the content rather than the teaching approach, if I remember correctly. In the younger years, it's so much more about the teaching approach than the content. Later, it sort of like switches because they're a little bit more developed and they want to make sure that the content that they're bringing them is accurate. So we have the specialists and the people who are experts in that field, and it's less about the environment and how the teacher is with the students and more about the content. Not that the teacher's presence is not still impactful in the teaching of those students. It certainly is, but there's a bit of a shift. So this book gives you, and also from a Waldorf perspective, history starts around 5th or 6th grade, and 5th grade is the ancient civilizations. So it's not exactly recorded history. It is recorded, but it's not dependent on time so much as grade 6 with Greece and Rome, when you're looking at recorded history sources and a history that influences in some capacity modern history with, and this is from a European approach, so the Dark Ages, Renaissance, and Age of Discovery. So if you are interested in the history approach or teaching history in Waldorf schools, I do recommend this book. It's really well done. Okay, I am so excited about this book. I only read through a couple of chapters and it is so good. And it's small. Look at this. Not much of a commitment, but you still really need to give yourself time to process these thoughts. This is Teaching Mathematics in 1st and 2nd grades in Waldorf schools, math curriculum, basic concepts, and their developmental foundations by Ernest Schubert. This one is so good. Now, I went to a Waldorf school when I was a child. I attended the Waldorf school for part of kindergarten and 1st grade before we moved countries, and the local Waldorf school here in Southern California was not established yet, and the one in Los Angeles was too far, so we went to public school. My older siblings got more of a Waldorf education, and of course, Waldorf came back into our life when I had children and I started teaching them from the Waldorf perspective. However, I never taught them effectively the math approach according to Waldorf, because when I was in school, I was thoroughly lost and confused. I remember just not understanding what was going on. Therefore, I chose a different way. I did include some of it, to be fair, but overall, I didn't really teach math in the Waldorf way until about 4th or 5th grade. So I'm really excited to explore it and understand it deeply so that I can bring it to my students in the future. The Essentials of Education and the Roots of Education, I think Are these the two that go together? There were some lectures that were, and I actually, maybe it's another book. I didn't pull out all of the new books that I got on Waldorf education because it was a huge stack, but linked in the description box below is a link to a small video that shows a lot of the books that I was reading this previous year. It doesn't show the entire list because I've gotten more since then, but it shows the entire list, and I give like a brief description of each of those books and whether I've finished reading them, in the process of reading them, or haven't quite started yet. So these two are ones that I've only just started, so I can't tell you much about them. But again, in learning about Waldorf education, this is going to the source, and it can be difficult to go through, but it gives context to when you see people talk about Waldorf education. This takes you back to like why it's being done this way. Either the lessons, the content of the lessons, how the lessons are being presented, when they are being presented. So all of that, the pedagogical approaches, these books are going to help give you that understanding and that context. This book I have not started yet, if I remember correctly. I know if I've read a book because you'll see it written in cover to cover. This is Waldorf Schools, Upper Grades, and High School. This is an area that I know very little about and I'm very curious about, although in these next 2 years, I'm going to be focused on early childhood education and the grades. But as my triplet nephews get older, and as my 10-year-old nephew gets older, then I hope that I can bring to them some of these concepts as well, because I am like very excited about revisiting the homeschool years from like with more knowledge, more passion. Well, I don't know, more passion. I think I was passionate the whole time, but more knowledge and information and experience. Hopefully, I still do these students a service with this information, and it's not something that's a disservice to them. These two books I learned about from a video that I saw online about a young man talking about his experience in 8th grade with his 8th grade English teacher. And it was so inspiring because the books that he mentioned are exactly the kinds of books and stories and lessons that I would want to bring into our homeschool. And I think these would make really great opening activity resources. So the Weighty Word book and Weighty Words 2, these are stories that introduce the student to rich vocabulary, and it's story driven. And these books are a little bit older, and so the illustrations, like, you may like or not like them, but they are distinct for that era. And I don't particularly like them, but I like that they are more of the hand-drawn look rather than the computer graphics that are really popular in books today. So it's definitely not the style that I go for, but I do like that they look like they're hand-drawn. And I love this idea of using story to introduce vocabulary, especially if, and these look like they're small stories, especially if you want to bring vocabulary that way. If you bring vocabulary on little flashcards, I feel like it's just not in context. This puts it in context. So we have the Weighty Book 1 and 2. We also have, before I show you this book, look what I have from the Library of Hannah at Pepper and Pine. So now I can mark my books. Look at that. I'm so excited about that. Okay, let's take you through Al-Ghazali, a book of knowledge for children. And this, in addition to my Waldorf teacher training, I have been doing my Islamic teacher training. So I saw this book at a local, sort of like a fair, like a, what would you call it? A place where there was a lot of vendors that, clothing and books and home decor. And so I picked this up. I believe it's a series. Yeah, there are 10 books in this series. How exciting. So I am excited to probably read this ahead of time and see how I can incorporate it into the lessons in this coming year. My children are now too old for this, but I I was just curious of how we can incorporate this, especially since moving forward, a lot of the lessons I'm going to be doing are Waldorf-inspired Islamic main lesson blocks, or I should say Waldorf-inspired main lesson blocks for the Muslim family, or just diverse main lesson blocks if you're looking for something that's a little bit different. I bought this book for my son recently. This is from Barnes & Noble. It's called Paper Love National Parks. It has 160 tear-off pages for writing, crafting, and sharing. So while I did give this to him, I hope that he's going to share with me, because look at how gorgeous these are. Oh, it's so lovely. So I think I'll make him like a gallery wall for his room, and then see if he wants to part with some of the paper so I could use it for scrapbooking. But this, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And there's another one in this series for mushrooms, and I did almost buy it, but as I flipped through it, I just wasn't super into a lot of the graphics and the colors and everything. But if you are more into mushrooms versus trees, there is that one. So beautiful. So beautiful, beautiful. Okay, this stack are all, they are old books and magazines for quilting, since that is something that I am getting into for handwork that I learned in the both Waldorf Practical Arts training as well as Waldorf Handwork Educators. And so I got these from my sister, who, I can't remember where she got them. They're all like a little bit dated, and I'm sure you can find more current resources. But some of the quilts that we're going to do are pretty classic, and so using an older, oh, this is really nice. This really goes through it. I'm not into floral designs. I'm more into geometric designs when it comes to quilts, but these are, I don't think I'll use this one. I don't think that's something that I'm into. This one, this is exactly the one that I needed. I'm so glad that she found this one for me. This is the log cabin design, and this is the one that we're going to be working on. Oh, that's interesting. That log cabin design does not have the red center. That's interesting. This one does. Look at those beautiful fabrics. Yeah, so this, oh, that is really, really neat. You can see all the different types of designs you can do when you pair it together. We won't be doing a quilt this large. We're going to turn our log cabin quilt into a pillow. And then a couple more of these books. These were all, older resources. Okay, I have one more set of things to show you.